I rely with my acquired knowledge and stock knowledge also. Okay? Sorry for that. Okay? So we have here we're gonna determine uh, the instantaneous acceleration. Okay, so before this, I'm not really particular with this description. Okay, things like that. I mean, I was in high school, that there's gonna be like that. Okay, so when I was in college, oh, there's gonna be like description, adjective, prior to that velocity, prior to that acceleration. Because there's also some that is not taking care with the description. As long as velocity, enough lang. As long as acceleration, enough lang. So we need to take note also the description, because in that description, we adjust our concept, our knowledge of that particular formula. Instantaneous acceleration. So we have also average acceleration. This can save our lives during board examination. Average acceleration. Okay. We have also instantaneous velocity. Okay. So English grammar can also save us here. Later I will explain. Instantaneous acceleration. Okay. And then average acceleration. Okay. Things like that. Okay. Things like average. Okay. Velocity. Velocity, acceleration. No, balik na si acceleration. Velocity. So can we have also instantaneous displacement and average displacement? Okay, okay, we don't have that, no? Things like that. Okay, but we do have instantaneous speed. Okay, here. Okay, and average speed also. Okay. So what is the difference between velocity and speed? Speed is an absolute value. It doesn't take care the negative sign. Okay? But velocity take cares, because whether it is accelerating on the left, which is negative, or decelerating, going down, which is negative. Get the point? So that's why negative 2.3 meter per second squared. So meaning to say it slows down. The sign here. A positive 2.3 is accelerating. It moves fast. Things like that. Okay? But in the speed, it doesn't matter. Okay? Because of the reason that speed is a scalar quantity, it doesn't acknowledge the orientation and the direction. Okay? But velocity takes care of the direction. North, east, south, west, to the left, to the right, to the top, to the bottom, like that. Or any description or preposition. Right? In English, preposition. Behind, under, like that. Okay? So the description through positioning. No, the description of positioning or location or situation. Things like this preposition. Okay? Okay, behind. Okay, underneath, below, things like that. Okay, so that's also a part of the orientation or the direction. Direction is not mainly north, east, south, west. Okay, we have also other direction preferences that doesn't denote only the four direction. No, okay, get the part. Go there to the right. That's also direction. Go there on the trees. You are also specifying the direction in that, even though you are not saying east, west, north, south. Okay, you get the point. Now, let's see. What is an instantaneous acceleration? Okay, so in understanding the definition and meaning of a certain quantities with their science and math, we need to go through what? We need to go through morphology, one of the studies of linguistic structures. You get the point? So we need to get the root word and the base form of the terminology. So instantaneous. What is the root word for instantaneous? So that is instant. Okay, meaning quick, fast. So if that is the case, if you say instantaneous acceleration, it looks like on the spot, very quick, like that. So your t approaches less than zero. Oh, no, less than the number, let's say 1, and then go to the 0, approaches to nearly 0. Okay? So let's say limits, that is called limits kasi in differential. So limits of t approaches to 0. From a value approaches to 0. Okay, you get the point. But because instant, okay, so that's the difference. Now, if it's instantaneous acceleration, okay, so acceleration, small letter A, okay, things like that, and then okay, with limits t approaches to 0 at time t, okay, get the point, and then delta v over delta t, the change of the velocity over the change of the time, or the rate of change of the velocity is acceleration. If that is the case, so it's gonna be like dv dt, okay, things like that. It's just the same. Okay? Okay, mga palagingging. Okay, so dv dt, and then okay, it is also like okay, a function of t, right? So a function of t, so the acceleration will be this one, dv dt. Okay, so for example, I will say a function of t is equals to 4t squared plus 4, like that, no? Okay, things like that. Okay, okay, so calculate. So you will come first with the vt, no? You need to differentiate this with the velocity first, and then get the dv dt, you have the acceleration. Okay, things like that, right? Okay, I mean, what is usually given here is the velocity when they ask you for acceleration. But it's possible also you start with a displacement or the position. I did not discuss the displacement of position, okay, because it's a part of this components, no? Things like that. Things like that. So function is siyang atong instantaneous acceleration. You get the point? So if we have the graph like this, no? So this is our time, okay, and this is our acceleration. You get the point, or things like that, and it forms a curve, for example, no, curve. Okay, meaning concave going up, no, because in this case you have the dv dt is going to be positive, no, positive. That's why it's facing upward. So meaning it's in the minima or minimum. Okay? If you have dv dt which is negative, then you have this curve like that, concave down. So this is maxima or minimum. Okay? So that's the technique. So sometimes if the problem will ask what is the maxima point of the particular function, sometimes you don't need to solve, because if you understand this relationship, that if it has a positive rate of change or dv dt, then that is really okay, going up, okay, facing up, okay, facing down, negative, get the point? No, but the problem is if it will become maximum, okay, it will become dv dt negative, okay, because the object will fall here, or we go here like that, no? So concave down. So ang atong curve facing downward. So nahin mo siyang maxima and minima. Maximum means maxima. Maxima having two like this, so many points that is in a maximum point, but only one maximum. Okay, maximum, maxima. Okay, here also minima, minimum. Singular minimum, plural minima. You get the point? So we need to say a lot of points here. These points are called minima. But if once it is in the lowest portion only, this is minimum. Okay, get the point? Here also is at the center, highest position, that is, okay, maximum. But points lying here on this curve facing the other is called maxima. This is a topic of maxima. That's why the title in differential calculus is maxima and minima. It's not minimum and maximum, because there's a lot of points scattered, not only one. You get the point? Okay. So how can you establish the minima and maxima? You need to get first the critical points. Mga ganun-ganon. Okay? So critical points. So critical points is the first derivative of a function. Okay? First derivative of a function, and then you let that equal to 0, and there's set of values x and y, substitute that there, so that you're gonna plot somewhere along the way. No? Because the plotting needs x and y most of the times. Okay. Because if you don't equate that to 0 as your critical points, the x will be no partner. The y also will be no partner. That's why you have partners all the time, so that you can create 1 point. Get the point? You get the point or not? That's why a line, it's not composed of a 1 point. It's composed of 2 points or more. You get the point? Okay. True or false? Is a line composed of 1 point? So there's also a question like that in math, right? So it composed of 2 points minimum. Okay, get the point? Things like that. Okay, muna na siya. Okay. So muna siya yung mga instantaneous. Okay. Now, how about average acceleration? Si average acceleration, okay, doesn't take care of the differentiation. Okay? He will just take care average velocity with prime like this, no? Delta V, delta still the same, but final velocity minus initial velocity over the delta t, or the t final minus TO. You get the point? So that is average velocity. Take note here, the average here is not the same in math, that we add all divided by how many quantities, right? Okay? For example, averaging, I get a point. I have 6 scores, 89, 88, 87, 88. We will just add the total and divide it by 6. But here in math or in physics, the word average may differ because it's not dividing with 2 or dividing with quantities in the denominator. You take the final and the initial, but still average is the terminology. See? You get the point? So there's another meaning of the average if we speak in math, no? Or in science compared to the other topic. It's also in math, right? In the probability and statistics, right? Arithmetic mean or averaging. Okay, but in another topic, it will become another. It will have another meaning. You get the point? Things like that. So my point, kasi guys, not all averaging or average would mean quantity 1 plus quantity 2 divided by 2. So there's another meaning like this. Okay? So I'm teaching not limited understanding of that particular one word. Okay? Things like that. So this one. Okay. Now, some of the problems will have given time 1, time 2, like that. So you analyze which is the initial and the final time. So that's with TF. TO, original time, initial time, final time. Sometimes si final TB po na siya, TB, TA. So these are only nomenclature. It doesn't have bearing as long as A is prior to B. That's why A is initial, B is final. Okay, get the point? O is original, okay, and F is final. Or this means also at time 0. Meaning to say it's not moving or initial. Okay, get the point na things like that. Okay, so that's why they would use preferably the TB and the TA. Okay, you get the point. Why is it so clear? Because TO is really initial. I know that, but sometimes it could be interpreted as T at time 0. Not all also at time is equal to 0. You get the point, no? So it could, a little bit lang. But it is not too much complicated, no? If you understand only. So it doesn't matter what is the nomenclature. Which is a TF, TI. Get the point? Things like that here. Okay, so muna siya average acceleration. Now, don't worry because in the problem solving, it will mention talaga average. The moment there's no average, otherwise specified, use instantaneous acceleration. And you can feel that also because the given is functions. Okay? Functions and more than 2. Because you will think that if the exponent is more than 2, it will produce curve. Or else it will become just only a linear equation. Like this equation. This is a standard linear equation of all. Y is equals to mx plus b. So there's no exponent here. So it doesn't make sense. You get the point? So the moment it contains exponent 2 and above, function of t, and use instantaneous acceleration computation. Unless otherwise specified, you are prompt to find the average. Okay? There's always average word if you try to use this quantity. If there's no average in the problem, don't use average velocity. This is what I am trying to emphasize. Otherwise, specified talaga siya. But if there's no, it's not specified average in the problem, use instantaneous acceleration and instantaneous velocity directly. But take note also, okay, your senses also can manage if there are time also given, 2 time frame. Even though it's not also asking the word average in the problem, but to think there are 2 time frames in the problem. So that would mean average velocity also. Even though it's not mentioned in the problem, the word average. You get the point? Because the given could tell that that is an average because there are 2 time frame, no? The final and the initial. Things like that, no? So, I mean, I'm teaching you not to be literal. You get the point? Okay? Things like that. In the question so far. So, this is instantaneous acceleration and average acceleration. Now, if this is your instantaneous, you get the point, okay? And you have the curve here, and you will erect a straight line at the bottom of this minimum point. You will have this point, right? How many points you created? This is only one, right? The moment you created only 1 point, guys, okay, this is called your slope of tangent line. So this will become m tangent, okay? Therefore, say m tangent is equals to y first derivative, f first derivative of something, things like that. Meaning it could be dv dt, dA dt, ds dt. Okay, nga siya, y prime, f prime, okay, or dy dt, df dt. As long as the first derivative of a function, that is your slope of a tangent. You get the point? No? You get the point? Things like that, okay? You don't need to use the algebra tangent slope, which is m is equals to y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. Okay, you don't have also to use this y is equals to the rise over the run, which is b over a. You get the point? Okay, you will never use also this slope in this manner. This is slope intercept. Diba? Y is equals to mx plus b. So there is also slope here. You can compute for n here, but this is another story because there is a b-intercept. So there's a lot of formulas of slopes in algebra. Okay? I think minimum of 3 or 4. Here in differential, okay, on the n tangent theta. Why, sir? Because ang average velocity is tangent second. No? Oh, no. M second. No? M second meaning the slope of the second line. Okay? So, mo siya si average acceleration, average velocity, like that, no? That takes only the algebraic way of computation, not differentiation. So again, if we say the slope of second line, okay, or whatever, so this is basing on algebraic way of computation by taking note the VF minus VO, like the blah, 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 so and so, and TF minus TO, ganon. Okay, things like that. Okay. But take note also, if the given is S, okay, for example, so this is possession. So of course, your brain cells will easy to detect, okay, if the given is S and is going to acceleration, and you still have the velocity here. So how can you, how that S become V? This is possession and displacement. So you need to also to differentiate this so that it will become VF. Okay, even though I said a while ago, use the algebraic way. That is the case if it's already velocity direct given in the problem. But what if it's still a distance or displacement or possession? The ball travels in a possession of 2 meters. Oh, it's not yet velocity, right? But your formula of acceleration have velocity here. So you need to differentiate first the distance, the displacement, or the position. This, okay, before getting the average velocity. And one by one, the expression here, minus here, no? Okay, get the point? Okay? Things like that. Unless siguro, if that is the average displacement. If it says average displacement, okay, calculate the average possession of the ball. So you don't have differentiate because it's already S. Sometimes but it's not really like that we need to copy what the teacher said. Sometimes it's our brain that will try to to detect what's next, like that, no? Okay, get the point? Because it's not all being fed to our teachers. Okay, get the point? Okay? Things like that. So, diri ang technique diri SVA. AV as mean magsugod sa position, velocity, acceleration. Acceleration, velocity, okay, position. Ana ka determine ang differential. Okay, get the point? Because you are not told to compute the area of the curve bounded by two functions, which is the integral calculus, or the volume generated by a disk by two functions. That is integral calculus. Okay? But here, only the rate of change, the critical points, minimum points, ganon. Maximization and minimization of something using the shapes also, no? Right? Katong mga sa trigonometry, trapezoid, rhombus, square, it can be applied in the application of the rate of change in the maxima and minima. We need to maximize the dimension of the backs by cutting two edges like that. Okay, you can also use the differential calculus. You get the point? So, taas pa kita glatason because it will deal pa sa mga shapes sa differential. Okay? Point? That is common favorite na niya nga problem. Okay? Favorite niya nga problem ang kanang type sa board exam. Ito po sa integral, katong mga volume generated, okay? Area generated by a disk. Get the point? Okay, nasa yung mga expertise, asa siya muhapak ba? Problem solving. Get the point? But it doesn't mean dito mo magtuon. You should study all. Get the point? Or even more. Okay? Things like that. Napay other point. Diba? Minimum points, critical points. Tapos gano'n siya inflection point. Okay, if you can still remember in differential calculus. Inflection point is the second derivative of your function. Okay? That is, lagi sa exam, what is the inflection point between the two concave curves? Like that, no. So, parang na kayong mag double differentiation. Okay? Not necessarily wala given o sarang given. Y is equals to 2t squared plus 3t. What is the inflection point of the function y is equals to t2 plus t? Double differentiation, inflection point day 1. Ano pag biga-biga, try pa dyan xy, para lang dyan makalocate. Kakaloka yung magano, no? Things like that. Ganyan, mag-let ka x0 at x is equals to para makahimo lang kag curve na tabla. So, ayun na pag-ingo ni Ana. You get a point to klaro maka-inflection point. So, double point, second prime, yun na. Okay, that's why it's advisable to memorize the graph situations, the graph forms and appearance. So that you don't let always assign values of x and y just to get what is the form of the graph. Just go po. Get the point. Memorize everything about graphs. If it's going up, going down, hyperbola, parabola. So, nanagay ka makita, bright ka makatubag. Umok siya mga advantage sa board exam. Yung katanaw na mo sa graph, kibaw na kaalam. Now, ellipse. By just looking in it. You get the point? So, this is the advantage. Rather than, you will always solve the values of x and y and plot that one by one so that you can form a graph. And that's the time you will decide, that's an ellipse after you are setting, after you are plotting the values of x and y, patay. You will consume all your time. May wala siya, y is equals to x squared plus 2, parabola. You get the point? No need to biga-biga, you get the point, because what is the definition of parabola? In the equation, at least 1 will be raised to the power 2, either x and y variable. So y is equals to x squared plus 2. So x is raised plus is 2. Usa lang. Parabola, dito na yun. Di ba? Ang utok mo lihok din, ay parabola. Thanks. No need to solve. So this is the advantage of basic concepts and principles and theories because you don't need to solve every time. By just looking the equation, you can easily, you can easily judge what's the final outcome. You got the point? Ganun. Sometimes you don't have to solve talaga. You got the point? Trust me. Okay, you get the point? Unless siguro, grabe na kayo mga problem solving. You get the point? Ito kung mga naali lang, not too much. Okay, get the point? Labi na mga expression lang. Y is equal to t cube plus 2t plus 3t. Alam na. Get the point? Things like that. Okay? You get the point. And then you can determine also the line directly. Okay, you get the point? No? Once the exponent 2, di ko na siya line. Things like that. Things like that. Dapat pala, we know already the nonlinear equation, linear equation, rectilinear motion, mga ganun ba? So, categorization of the graph. You know what is a sinusoidal graph. Okay? The y cosine x graph, sine x graph, mga trigonometric function graph, memorize ng tanan. So that, dito na yun, exam, katanaw rin mo, ay, mo ni siya, takilid, nga naman to ang kuan, ang sekat teka, ang charot. Ano naman, what is the graph in that particular equation? A, B, C, D. Ang ganun naman ang question, A, tangent theta x, B, cotangent theta x, C. Nga ano magsubsob pa man ka? Diba? Things like that. And sometimes, nagkahanap siya values of x and y. With the values of x is equal to 0 up to less than or equal to 2. And y, 0 is equal to 2. So, ang tendency, si student, mura maglabad yung okay, dagang siya mga values of x. So, he or she think it will be used up every time. That just to determine what type of graph, what type of appearance. Pero pagkatanaw mo sa function, wala kay idea. Yung question, anak good. Which of the following graph that it represents ragu? So sa to pa, wa ka nag-memorize sa graph, wa ka nag-familiarize. Ang imo, magsubsob jud ka. Later pa nimo makuha unsa nga type nga form sa graph. It's a red flag. Okay, get the point? So, but I'm not saying also kasi that is not correct. That is the most accurate. But the problem is it will consume time during your solution process, no? And then you will take longer time to finish out of 150 questions. Yung masira na, mag-kwinta na. Iungot ka sa usa ka problem na pag-asking solution. Ito kwento niya. Ang ipangita na graph appearance. What is the graph appearance of y is equal to t2 plus 3t with x values greater or equal to 2, y is equal to 2. Ang katong mga x greater to 2, katong mga ranges na biga-biga na to. That's not really related how to determine the graph. It will become related if you try to solve on the process. Okay. Pas si solve. Kita po ito mo. Dagan kay kang ilet. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ano na siya? 0, negative 1, negative 2, 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. So in that 3 points, negative and positive, you can establish already the graph. How long will it take? Diba? Parang ganun. Diba? Things like that. And you know also how to graph the absolute values. Ito nagbilangkad na. Bilangkad ganin na siya, guys. Absolute values na siya. Kita point no. Bilangkad diri, bilangkad. Letter V ba, not curve. So ano siya? Y is equals to absolute value of x equals to absolute value of y. Maganda lang. Kita point no. Okay. So piman-an ato ang mga curve, mga form jud niya, no? Okay, things like that. Okay? Things kung di na matabang, madadapat tong x cube. Kung di na to, i-analyze lang dito kay plan x to the 4th di. What is the graph of the x to the 4 niya murag kung naman na siya it looks like need to solve. Memorize kasi gana katulad ng x to the 3 kutob yung graph. Pero if you want also you experiment, no, during your study, from hibawan lang yun mo ba kung sino mga graph ano x to the 5, x to the 4, pero ikaw ragod sa mga galingon maimo ma-identify yun. Okay, what if they mo yung board exam na in the function y is equal to 2x5, what is the graph produced? At least din ka mag-solve ito kaya nag-practice naman kadaan katong pagtuon pa nimo. At the point, no? Kasi sa actual pa ka mag-let x equals to dugay ka makahuman og 5, exponent 5. Hindi na ra ba ka na itudlo ang matag-as og exponent. Higher exponents in math, it's not usually presented in a graph. Okay? You have to do that in your own. That's why prior to the examination, you need to practice also higher exponents in identifying the graph. The benefit of a doubt, expect the unexpected. Let's say, ang imong i-practice until ano lang, x to the 6. What kind of graph will be produced? So, let x is equal to 0, let x equal to 1, 2, and then makaproduce ka graph. Na imong timan pero hindi mo na to. Kita point. For exam, na yung ato nga exponent, ask for the graph, oh, perfect. Because you already practiced. You get the point? Have you noted that kind of question? Okay. Things then. Pero guys, yun naman kung ang inyong bitang goal is top-notcher. You will never go that if your goal is not top-notcher. You will not exceed. Okay, the usual topics. You get the point? No. From atong goal, pinatop-notcher ang dating, mo nang exceed sa mga mga curriculum, no? Di ba? Get the point? Anak siya. You get the point? Oo. Nakuha niyo ang point, guys. Oo, anak siya. Any questions so far? Okay, okay. There's no such issues for this, no? Okay, for rate of change. Okay, things like that. Ang velocity mo lang yapon, no? Magsugod ka ni S, no? Ang velocity, no? Things like that. Average velocity. Okay, get the point, no? Oo. Kung na kay S, okay na. Get the point, no? Oo. Okay, anak na siya. dv dt. So, magsugod siya sa S. Di ba? Oo. So, ito pa. Position A position B minus position A over TB minus A. Things like that, no? Diba? Okay, get the point. So, ano nagyap mo na siya kay? Kung ano na siya. Basta natin yung may ani guys, na partner juwa-juwa. Muna na siyang average, ha? Ang centennials, katod yung function. Okay? So, sa second line, before I will end this discussion, second line, you can produce 2 points na siya, ha? 2 points. If it will erected 2 points in a single line, that is a slope of a second line. Okay? But if one lang gani siya, slope of a tangent line. Okay? So mo ask man ang board exam nga na agad nga mga basic ra kay ba. Okay, what slope will be produced if one line is intersected in the minima curve? Ganon. So, literally na kita point no. Oo. So, one man siya, so slope of tangent, no? Tangent slope. Okay, kita point no. Now, yun sa na. Two points are erected below the minimum point of a curve. And yung answer po kay slope of a second line. So, imong timan na nga, slope gani ang biga-biga diha sa trigonometric functions, si tangent lang o si secant. Duhara. Charot kita ka-memorize sa slope, si duhara ito si tangent o si secant. Kita point no, oo. So, timan na ito nga, why slope of the cotangent, why slope of the cosine. Okay, kita point na always slope of the tangent line and slope of the secant line. Mga ganon. Okay, kita point. So therefore, okay, we will say m of the secant line until such a level equal to the slope of the tangent line. Okay? I-equate na mo siya. Okay, get the point, no? Oo. Ang tangent line, magkuhan maka-differentiate chuvas, no? Y prime. Yung second line, kani siya. Pwede na siya mo equate dito. Magkuhan na sa kaglain. So, you know guys, doon tikad makuha ng mga possible, equations. Okay, get the point, no? Oo. Okay? So, but before that, imos tong mastiron sa physics. Tanan. Mga velocity, acceleration, na nasa mong utok daan ba? Para dali lang kita mo maka-differentiate. Get the point. For example, okay, get the point. Ito katong mga nga parang na, y is equals to yot plus 1/2 gt squared. Katong lang maximum height of a projectile. Ato dyan yung memorization kay, moment dyan ang puhunan dito sa differential calculus. Vf is equals to Vo plus acceleration times time. Ganon. Diba? Okay then. Manasag ka na acceleration is equals to Vf raised to the power 2 minus Vo raised to the power 2 over 2d. Ganon na po ka. Okay? You get the point? Diba? Acceleration, Vf squared, okay, then plus 2AD, no? Parang gano'n, no? Parang naman na ani. Dito mo na siya gikan dito sa VF squared is equals to VO squared plus 2AD. Derive naman niya siyang formula sa acceleration. Kani. Ang original na VF squared is equals to VO squared plus 2AD. When you try to manipulate, you can get acceleration, which is like this. Okay, get the point? Wala sa nang emotion. Okay, get the point? O, mo na siya. Libaran sa ganda. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, yun sa physics, 1 half GT squared lang kita ko nakitaan. Alangan man po kay. Ang initial height ato 0 man. So 0 times si 0 mo na y is equals to 1 half GT squared 2. Di ba ka na mag-drop kang object? Okay? Nagsugod ba yan ang imong height ana? Di ba kung anong imong height na covered ana? O kaya kay height ana? Di ba? Sa to pa, ang kaning y uni mo 0. Get the point? Oh, that's why naay formula nga y is equals to 1 half GT squared. Sabat. O, di ba? O, di ba? O, nanong G man asociatero kay? Ang G gani guys, downward o upward. Ang A is left to the right. Okay? Muna siya ang nomenclature sa acceleration. Okay? So this acceleration katong kang second law and then acceleration katong third law sa gravity. There are two types of third laws ni kuan ni Isaac Newton, the law of free falling body and the law of interaction. Okay? But what is popular is the law of interaction. No? In every reaction there must have equal and opposite direction. Yeah, later pa man to na later Isaac Newton discovered the falling apple under his head. So that's why he created a calculation that is due to the gravitational force, no? Things like that, no? Mo to nag-create siya acceleration due to gravity. Ganun. Kaya usay man gud sa board exam, mo tana siya, which of the following is not a third law of Isaac Newton? Ning ana ba? Nya ang atong nahibalaan usara ba? Katura ba si law of interaction ra gyud? Dapat natay gamay nga paagi. Actually, yun na siya mao-jud ang third law kani si law. Pakapin ra na siya bakta na. Ipahuway siya sa apple tree. Nahugban ang apple. Dito point oo. Kung ano siya kuha na kasi kung nag-iinumduman siya pag-ayo ba. Na may picture ni Isaac Newton. Dito point to. Mo di jud ako makalimtan na siya nga kuan nga topic. Dito point no. Dito point na niya. Damit leg G nga 9.81 meter per second squared. Okay? Napraktiso sa dato atong konsasakwan ha English unit ha 32.2 feet per second squared. English unit na siya 9.81 meter per second squared ha. Dito point okay. Dito mong engineer kung ito kasaguan ni. Dito point oo. Parang ka nga pagkasulti. Get the point oo. Sure. Okay? Things like that. Katong mga pressure, various unit. Ang akong i-study sa grade ang mga units guys, akong memoryahon tanan. Way lusot. Okay, mo study kog pressure, all unit of measurements of pressure, ang conversion memorya. Kung yung temperature, all kinds of units of temperature memorya with corresponding equation. Sa to pa, makasolve ko og Fahrenheit diha dayon without looking the books or EI or Google. Kinaaman ko ipagi ana. Nanipilit sa akong utok. You get the point? Oo, hantod karon. Okay? So ana siya. You get the point? Oo na. Pasulbon ko Rankine, kabaw ko. You get the point? So ito pa, how many, kung ano sa, Rankine, Kelvin, degrees Rankine, Kelvin, Celsius, Fahrenheit. Muna siya yung mga units sa temperatures. Na dapat ka, mauka, unsay formula, tag sa ana. You get the point? No? Oo. Ay paabot sa given. Muna siya laktod pagkasulti. Don't wait for the given. You should know the formula each. Okay, get the point? Diba? Ganun siya. Okay. Things like that. So, ganitong Rankine, 1.8 times Kelvin. Kelvin, degrees Celsius, plus 273. Okay, things ganun. So, ito pa, at absolute zero, what is the value of the temperature? Okay, so board exam, which of the following is an absolute zero temperature? Diba? That is 0 Kelvin. When you say absolute zero. Okay? 0 Kelvin. Kelvin has no degree when you try to pronounce it. That is the only exemption of all the unit of measurement of temperature. The others have degrees. So degrees Rankine, degrees Celsius, degrees Fahrenheit, except for Kelvin. It's not degrees Kelvin. Okay, wrong grammar. Gets? Dapat particular po sa grammar accuracy sa mathematics, not only sa English. Get the point? Oo. Diba? Muna ako mga style before. Okay? Oo, things like that. It is effective naman talaga siya. Okay? Okay. Articulate GK ko, no? Whether English, science, or math, no? And investigative. Di ko bright, pero kung GK ko ba investigative, super learning, may mga anak, things like that. Taas na noon akong memory retention sa una pa na itong elementary pa ko. Munibong ko na kuan nga kuan, ang talent nga hatag ni Lord. Kung, makakuan man ko, isuwat lang sa teacher, di na ako isuwat sa notebook. Ma-flashback dayon siya ba. Pero, depende ha sa topic ha. You get the point na sa interest niyo. Pero usually, kuan ako, remember yun ako. You get the point, labi na two sentence lang. You get the point, may nga na ba, isuwat sa blackboard. Things like that. Di ba na yung mga definition ng gagamay lang? Di ba? Basta ng energy. Basta ng, di ba? Energy. The capacity to do work. I learned this in my elementary and until now I will never forget. Really? Energy. The capacity to do work. Period. That's why energy and work is equal in unit of measurement. Nagamit na siya sa physics din. Dali kayo ma-navigate niyo. Kaya ingon na ko kadan. Energy is the capacity to do work. Di equal si energy o si work. Di ba? Okay. Is good. Is means equal. Sa translation from words to symbols sa math. Grade 5 or grade 6. Ito doon tani teachers. Conversion from words to symbols. Symbols to words. Greater than, less than. Ganun. Puting gamita na. You get the point? Oo. Things like that. You get the point? Okay, things like that. Any questions so far? Kasi pong mga reciprocal biga-biga, no? What is the reciprocal of molar volume? Nabuang ikuwang. Molar volume na. So, sa man ba? Reciprocal of molar volume. Charot. Wala. Di ba, kuhan, maramisod paminawon. Pero actually, that is concentration. Hindi man na siya usual na gipag-tudlot ng anak agad. Ito point. Okay, ang unit sa molar volume. Problema lang basta kakasabot ko sa unit sa molar volume. Ay mo timan ang sa science, guys, na kung ang description gani giunag mention, the description is prior to the noun, okay? That description would be in the denominator. For example, if I will say specific mass. So I will say, usaw pa na mo, ang kilogram na sa ubos. So ito pa, 1 per kilogram. Muna siya specific mass. Gets ninyo? Di ba? Oo, ganon. Okay, so diba ni kuan? It divided. Because when we say mass, that is not the reverse. But if you will say specific mass, what is the specific mass of an object niya? Yung i-compute ang mass. Ang specific mass is the reciprocal baya sa mass, original. So sa ito pa, kung na word nga specific, ang mass anak kayo nasa ubos. So that's why punta, specific heat. Diba? Diba? Specific concentration, specific viscosity, specific density, all kinds of quantities in physics. If there is specific prior to the noun, the denominator is always a mass. Now, kuha ka nga knowledge, matter na siya. Kaya kung tanon ka dito, pa-computer ka, what is the specific viscosity? It's not the regular viscosity that we are memorizing na. Because there's a description. Diba? So that's the relevance of description prior to the noun. Specific inductance. Molar capacitance. Molar inductance. Na yung mga apelido, na yung mga first name sa iyang surname, di ba? Matter na siya, guys. You get the point? Oo. Specific heat capacity. Na yung masa ubos, specific naman daan. You get the point? Oo. Gawas ko na siya sa board exam, ginagmay lang. You get the point? No? Ginang palabian kung hatag sa food ba? You get the point? Oo. Dito man ako na-learn katong actually dugay din ako na-learn mga third year pa ako sa chemical engineering kay pag-ukab na ako sa katong steam table na topic sa physical chemistry, dito ko, ano mga specific, yung sa gamit ani, Di man ko a type of a student nga tan-awon ra bitaw nako ang iyang mga graph enough na niya kasi kung kanang graph solve. Every word nga gi-reflect dito sa books ako siyang pangitaag meaning ba para makasabot ko. Yung anak ko nga type nga learner. The moment di ko kasabot sa terminology sa x-axis o sa y-axis, ako din na siyang i-research. Get the point? Until sa ma-discover na ko, mao din siya. Ganon. Yung i-apply din ako siya all throughout. Tapos niya, magkuha din ko. Mag-law of parallelism din ko sa ubang mga context. Kay linkage man ang mga kuan principles sa science of math. Mo to, makabintaha sa mga exam punuhay. Tapos oo. Okay. Kasi anak, ito po ito, ano ako pa nagibuhat, hindi man ko bright of math. Makatabang man ako sa math problems. Ang may ni ana nga datingan, ito po ito kay sa English, sa math man good, math problems, nang mga English nga mga conjunction, magandang ba? The moment di ka makasabot pud ana, maglisod man kag school. Ito po ka na mga kuan dai may the relative mass of kuan, lain naman po na nga mass, relative baya. Muna diha ron sa may relative mass B. So to padita magtuon mass ra gyud na word. Okay, mga adjective, description ganon. Okay, get the point no. So mga first year, Ginoo ko ay mo pagsaligan ng mga puros numero yung tun-an. Bisig engineering pa mo no, get the point. Oo. Matag bright of math nga malabwan jud ninyo ang mga score. Yun alanganin sakto-sakto ra ta. Sakto-sakto, yan, dito bright. So, bawi sa kuan, mga concepts, theories, principles, mga grabing mga kuan. Mujud nakakuha na ko guys, grabing kay kumukuan. Char! Ginoo ko kung nagpatiwarek pasan ko, di ko makukuan. Ay nako, get a point.